meeting for April 6th. To order. This meeting is held in accordance with the 1975 Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec. Annual notice having been forwarded to the New Jersey Herald and the Daily Record and posted on the bulletin board and maintained in the municipal building for public announcements. Roll call.
Mr. Hefferkamp.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Roberts is absent. Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mayor Gulati.
Here. You'll join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's start with committee reports and we'll start with Mr. Hefferkamp.
Mayor, all I have tonight is I'd like to express our sympathy to the family of William Orr. William Orr was a veteran. He was the captain, also the Miss Lotta. And in particular, he was one of our hometown hero banner recipients. And I just would like to extend our sympathy to the family on his passing. That's all I got, Mayor.
I wanted to welcome 2 new businesses in town. I think I'm a little late on the first one. We have a new ice cream shop on River 6, True Vine, that opened, and Chapala 4 on Lakeside Boulevard, which we're very excited about, and I've already gone twice with my family. We love that place. The next recreation meeting is May 14th at 7 p.m. in this room. The next Municipal Alliance meeting is May 6th at 6:30 in this room. Signups have started for Hopatcong Warriors football and cheer. Please go to hopatcongwarriorsprogram.com. Project Graduation 2024 is hosting a comedy night at St. Jude's with Dave Riley on June 27th at 7:30. Proceeds go to fund Project Graduation. The High School Drama Club is presenting Oklahoma on the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st of April. The Thursday through Saturday show is at 7 p.m. and the Sunday's matinee is at 2 p.m. Anyone looking to donate to Project Graduation 2024 can reach out to Eric Saito. They are accepting donations until the end of May. High school seniors and parents, please make sure you check out the high school tab of the school website for scholarship opportunities that are available. There seem to be a lot. That website is hopatconschools.org. There is currently a bill circulating to update the eligibility for the state training fund in regards to ambulance departments. This new bill fixes the old language that disqualifies volunteers from gaining access to the funds because the agency they volunteer for bills for services. This will impact Hopatcong, Lakeland, Sparta in our area alone. This bill would allow volunteers to get their EMT and refresher courses paid for by the fund, regardless of how the agency is funded. And Bill A3537 revises certain requirements concerning eligibility for a reimbursement from Emergency Medical Technician Training Fund. This is reported out of Assembly Committee with amendments and referred to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Thank you, that's all.
That certainly was a lot. Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I just want to, another person that is very important to the lake, Joe Fleming, died recently at 92, I believe. He was one of the original people that formed the Antique Boat Club of a Lake Hopatcong in the early 70s. And he and Drayton Mook and a few other men, 4 men, I believe, started it. It's our 50th anniversary this year. And unfortunately, he just passed, but it has become a international thing, this antique boat facility, and we are very proud to have it had started the #1 place in New Jersey in Lake Hopatcong. So we send his family our regrets. Okay.
Mr. Smith?
Up at the Sussex County Municipal Utilities Authority, the next paper shredding event is April 19th. They have a new event on the calendar called Recycle More, and that's on May 11th, and you can bring paper, hard drives, electronics, batteries, plastic bags, and numerous other things for recycling. Over the Sussex County Chamber of Commerce, we have a trail cleanup, April 19th. April 19th. And the annual awards luncheon is April 25th. And I don't mean to step on your toes, but the comedy night is April 27th, not June.
What did I say?
You said June.
I meant April 27th. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Anyway, it's gonna be fun and it's for project graduation. It's gonna be a blast. I know you're gonna be there. I know I'm gonna be there. So it's gonna be a fun time. And yes, please go see the musical this week. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. And with that, I'll pass it on to you.
Okay. I have a lot, so I apologize. I'm gonna read off my list, so I don't lose my place here. The next NCA meeting is Saturday, April 20th. Please save the date, and in case you don't have a calendar, we do have extras. They're in the foyer. They're very informational. I will say this year, there's a lot more events that are listed, so you guys can plan to attend those because we love when you guys come out. So the two, big parades we have coming up, there's a lot happening before that, but please save the date. Saturday, May 25th at 10 a.m. is the Memorial Day Parade, and that's going to go from Borough Hall to Veterans Field. And the next big parade is going to be Saturday, June 15th at 10 a.m. That is our Flag Day Parade. So that'll go from Company 3 right in the center of town to Vets Field. For first responders, I'm going to start with the ambulance squad. We want to congratulate Jason Morton and Ryan Zink, both volunteers who successfully passed their EMT class as well as their National Registry Certification exam. As most of us are aware, some of you guys attended. The ambulance squad held their annual member appreciation dinner on April 6th. And Alex Mendick, who we all know as Butch, was presented with an award installing him as the first Hopatcon Ambulance Squad trustee in recognition of 46 years of volunteer service. So congratulations to Butch. Just some statistics on the ambulance squad, so we all kind of know where they stand and what they're doing. So they have 35 active members, 24 are EMT, 11 responders. To date, they have a total of 277 calls. The average response time from 911 call to arrival is just over 8.5 minutes. The Sussex County average reported by the New Jersey Department of Health is 23 minutes. So seems like we're doing pretty well there. Of the calls so far to date, 16% of those calls involved ALS with paramedic support. 20 occurrences so far this year, having more than one ambulance out at the same time. As Mayor Galati previously reported, the first community CPR class using the newly acquired CPR mannequins were held with 15 participants, successfully completing the class and attaining their certification. Because of the popularity of the class, several classes have been added. So please mark your calendars for Thursday, May 16th and Tuesday, June 11th at 7 p.m. You can sign up on the hopatconems.org webpage under classes. The Hopatcon Ambulance Squad is actively seeking new volunteers starting at the age of 17. No experience is necessary and all the training is provided at no charge. Volunteers learn life-saving career-building skills and make a difference every day in our community. You can sign up by going to the Join Us tab on hopatconems.org or calling 973-770-0440. Going over to the fire department. The fire department is currently going through their ISO rating review. So what that is, basically, fire departments across the nation are rated by ISO to determine a public protection classification number on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the very best and 10 representing less than minimum. Most major insurance carriers use the PPC in calculating fire insurance premiums. This review takes several months and they look at things such as the number of volunteers, conditions of the buildings, literally everything you could think of within the fire department. They look at it all. It is a lengthy process. And the last one the fire department had completed was done in 2014. Jumping over to the fire department. Can I borrow your water?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The second week, so right now, the second week in April is, known for two things. We want to shout out to our Hopatcon dispatchers. We do have 8 of them here, 5 full-time, 3 part-time. So thank you for, their selflessness to the community and always being there to answer the phone in a time of need. The second week in April is also known as National Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week. Our ACO was here for the Board of Health meeting, so we are endlessly thankful for her and her team and everything they do. And just for those who aren't aware, aside from just covering Hopatcon, we cover Byram, Stanhope, Morton, Mount Arlington, and Netcong. A new initiative rolled out by the police department. So on April 9th, the Hopatcon Police Department announced the launch of its new positive ticketing initiative in collaboration with the Hopatcon Middle School, Center for Prevention and Counseling, and Machio's Food Service. This collaborative effort aims to recognize and reward positive behaviors among youth in our community. And the last thing for the PD, I highly encourage you all, if possible, can attend the next council meeting, May 1st. The Hopatcong Police Department will be presented with the accreditation plaque by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police. At that meeting, there will also be awards presented, as well as the swearing in of 4 new officers. These officers start the academy tomorrow, and that's going to be at the Passaic County Academy. And we wish them the best of luck over the next 6 months of their journey. Now I'm done.
Thank you.
Are we having the May 1st one here or over at the firehouse?
It's at the firehouse.
Okay.
So the May
Company
1st
three.
meeting will be at the firehouse.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very lengthy.
That was lengthy.
I hope yours isn't that long, Greg, but the administrator's report.
That will be much more brief. In fact, I've got a long list here from DPW. I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights. Curbside leaf pickup was accomplished. A lot of trees that were cleaned up from wind. Here's one I have never read off before: structural checks after earthquake. We have also optimistically removed the salt spreaders from the trucks. Baseball fields were groomed. Over on the utility side, grinder pump replacements were ongoing. Water meters were read, amongst other activities. I'll add to that for my report, a couple of highlights. Mr. Urston did provide the latest copy of the animal ordinance. This is going through an internal review, but I'm optimistic that you'll see the latest iteration pretty soon. Also, the staff has reviewed the list of borough-owned properties, has culled that list, and we look forward to getting it up on the website for people who may be interested in purchasing certain parcels from the borough. The process would typically remain the same as it has been in the past. They still have to fill out a form, pay a fee, and it'll go through our internal review. So once that does get posted up on the website, that does not mean that with 100% certainty that we would be willing to sell it. So that is my report there.
Thank you. We have no proclamations this evening. We will open the meeting to the public. The meeting is open to the public to speak for up to 5 minutes about anything that is on the agenda. There's a second public comment at the end of the meeting for you to comment on anything that's on the agenda and off the agenda. I have a motion to open.
Motion.
Second,
Very good.
all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is open to the public.
Good evening. My name is Alan Henderson, Lafayette Township, and I'm here to greet you and introduce myself to you. I'm one of 5 candidates running for Sussex County Commissioner, the current mayor of Lafayette Township. I've been on the Lafayette Town Council for 12 years now. Just to give you a little background on myself, I spent 28.5 years in Hardiston Township Police Department, walked in at 19 years old as a dispatcher and walked out at 47 as their police captain. Several people said, "Hey, would you do it again?" Believe me, if I could get my uniform, I'd go back to work tonight at midnight. Not quite sure I could stay awake all night now, but I would certainly give it my best. I've been involved with Sussex County Farm and Horse Show. I spent 26 years with the Farm and Horse Show. I was the fair president for 8 years. I'm married, 40 years of marriage. My wife might tell you 60 years, but it actually is 40 years of marriage. I've got 4 children, or 2 children, 4 grandchildren. Life is good. I've had several people say, "What are you thinking now running for county commissioner?" To be really honest with you, I'm a straight black and white guy. The law enforcement has always made me that way. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for all of you and every person sitting behind me in this room. My heart is into it. I'm not leaving the county. It's been my lifetime home in Lafayette Township. I actually live in the home where I was born by my grandparents. So since 1942, not me, but it's been owned by the Henderson family. And I just want to introduce myself to you. So when you walk in and see that ballot, you can put a face to the name, and it's Alan Henderson. And believe me, I want to do it for all of us in Sussex County. And I thank you. I don't want to be accused of being lengthy. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan.
It's not on the agenda, but it was mentioned. We had talked before about highlighting the changes, in the ordinances. Have we decided whether we're going to do that for the public so that we can see what was changed?
I believe that we talked about redlining everything, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Was there a follow-up with the chief of police regarding the things that the lady spoke about 2 meetings ago? The fact that we can't see the dispatcher or whoever we're talking to when we go to the police headquarters. This is a one-way glass. And the license plates that are missing from the front of cars. Also the fact that a lot of cars seem to have something covering the license plate, so the police can't really read the police numbers. The numbers on the licenses, as well as if we're in an accident with somebody and they have a license that's covered, it's of no use. The other thing that I just thought I would mention, and also the basketball court in the center of town. It was mentioned that it was going to be, because there's cracks in the basketball courts. It was mentioned that in the spring it would be taken care of. Is that on the agenda or whatever?
Do you want me to answer just that one or wait till you're done?
Okay. You
Was
could
that the
answer.
last one?
I have just one more.
Yeah.
I had mentioned about 3 meetings ago that the sides of this room and the DPW supervisor was here and he said he get some stain and they stain it up because it's really worn down. I was wondering if that was going to be done. That's it.
Okay, so as for the dispatch window, nothing has been done with the dispatch window. I am not sure if that's done that way on purpose or not. That is similar to other police departments. I will get you an answer for that. The license plates missing on the front of the cars and the license plates that seem to be disfigured or disguised in some way, I will make sure that I send the chief an email tonight before I leave here. So that she's aware of that, that you've noticed that. The basketball courts, we haven't started to do any of our spring cleanup type stuff. Our landscaping contract has been delayed. I think it's on the agenda for this evening. So that's been very, very delayed. Usually that stuff is happening in February to where we have a better grasp of things. So once we get that underway, things will start to be prepared, fixed along the ways at the fields as time permits for DPW. I myself have asked the DPW superintendent to come in here and fix this room specifically. So I know as soon as he has time, he is going to do that, but it is on my list of things to do as much as it is yours, Dave.
I greatly appreciate it. One more comment, I think it's very good that in this publication, you're putting the new codes or new rules that we have in the borough so that the people know what's going on.
Yes, it's all about communication.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Not seeing anything, motion to bring it back,
Motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, approval of minutes for April 3rd, 2024, regular and executive minutes, and everyone is eligible.
Motion made.
Second,
Roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
We do not have any correspondence, so we'll move on to resolution 2024-58, which is the bill list. Can I have a motion?
Motion made. And someone want a second and I'll.
Second.
Second.
And if I may, Mayor, anyone having anything they'd like removed from the bill list? Now's your time to speak.
I do,
All right, go ahead. Where you're starting at here.
just the top,
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Anyone else? Mayor, if I may move the bill list with the following 7 exceptions. 24-00598, 24-00599, 24-00606, 24-00607, 24 dash,
Are you taking those out?
Yeah,
No,
no.
you're on the wrong page. Right here.
well, that would be good.
Here.
Sorry about that. Let's go with this
Oh,
one.
yeah, 23s.
Greg, sorry about that.
I'm like 24.
24, 22. Yeah, still got it. Oh, this goes all the way back to 1922. 22-00642, 23 511, 23 780, 23 916, 23 1166, 23 1636, and 23 1644.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts. First absent, Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I'm never gonna get a job as a clerk again.
And Mayor, I'd like to put up those following 7 bills for approval.
Can I have a
Second.
roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Abstain.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Abstain?
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Moving along to resolution 2024-59, authorization for a refund of a tax overpayment and cancellation of all future taxes for block 10807, lot 8. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-60, authorization for a refund of a tax overpayment and cancellation of all future taxes for block 11303, lot 45.
Motion.
Second.
The roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-61, self-examination of the municipal budget.
Motion made.
Second.
And a roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-63, authorization.
Self-examination.
Budget by title.
To read the, yeah.
62 or
62, I'm sorry, 2024-62, authorization to read the municipal budget by title
So made.
Second.
and a roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
2024-63, authorization of a professional service contract, Dorsey and Semaru Conflict Tax Appeal Attorney.
So made.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-64, authorization of an award of a landscaping bid to LTI Inc. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Yes. I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion?
Yes.
And then the roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Okay. 2024-64, I'm sorry, 2024-65, award of paving for Kansas Way, Adelphi Trail and Rollins Trail to Riverview Paving, Morris County Co-op.
This
I have a
is
motion.
state aid, right? This is, this is grant?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
So made.
I'm sorry, yes.
I think,
So made.
second.
And the roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ordinances, introduction of ordinance 7-2024.
Wait, we have to do the
Oh, I'm
four
sorry.
Oh, yeah, the fourth.
We have three,
Yeah,
I apologize, we have 3 different agendas up here. So we have resolution 2024-66 through 69 that we are going to do.
Yeah, correct. So the situation that we have with the agenda items that are labeled H, I, J, and K All four of them are for the hiring of police officers. All four of them are for police officers who are starting the academy tomorrow. They were not, these items were not placed on the original agenda that was posted on Monday. That would have been posted 48 hours in advance. Typically, we try and be very careful and make sure that anything that we do that's hiring contracts or spending money, we try and make sure that it appears on the agenda in the 48 hours that is required. Here, this is a pretty emergency situation in the respect that the resolutions can't simply be considered at the next meeting because the police officers are ready to be hired and they're ready to go to the academy, and it happens tomorrow. So it's a little bit of an unusual situation, but I think we're under the Open Public Meetings Act. There's a provision for emergency actions that need to be taken. Typically, it's something more like something that needs to be bought or what, because a water pump is broken or something like that. But I think the same thing applies here. And so someone can make the motion. You can do H, I, J, and K all together because they're the same resolution for the officers. If someone makes the motion, it will be pursuant to an emergency need. And the procedure with that is that we pass it tonight, but then we also place it on the next agenda. We recite the reason for the emergency, and we obviously appears on the agenda, and we ratify the decision that was made tonight on somewhat short notice with respect to the agenda. So if someone wants to make the motion for H, I, J, and K, it'll be pursuant to an emergency need, and then I'll speak to the clerk about getting it on the next agenda so that we're in compliance.
I'll move
So
all
made.
four.
Mayor will
Second.
make you move it. You
I'll
want
move
to,
all four.
but
And I
include the
think Rachel
language,
said second.
include the language,
Pursuant to-
emergency.
Mhm.
Emergency
Emergency.
language.
Pursuant to the emergency language, as mentioned.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
I'm sorry, second.
Me.
Rachel, second.
Rachel, okay. Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Moving on to ordinances. Ordinance 7-2024 trees. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, and State of New Jersey, replacing the Borough Code Chapter 228 trees.
I'll make a motion. I know someone wants to talk about it.
Yeah, I do. Me too.
Who- I want
Wait
to
a
second
second.
it.
Second.
I would like more time to review this ordinance with Mr. Rushkey and Mr. Urson.
I would also like a red line copy of this.
Mhm.
so
Well, yeah,
can
we
see the
requested that at
changes
previous
from one.
meeting. Any,
This is a brand new one from the state.
It says replacing the
This
borough
is-
code.
Yeah, we're replacing the borough code, which means everything would be redlined and this is all new. That's what they're telling us to do. This is another unfunded mandate from the state.
Right.
And
This
we
is-
really need to go over this with a fine tooth comb
So
to
now
make
this
sure
is-
our residents are not given the shaft.
Right, and Mr. Rushki was here a couple of meetings ago, discussing with us how we, I guess, like, what our guidance was about this, correct?
Correct.
His arguments to me were unconvincing.
Okay. All right. So you want to table this?
Well, I think we should introduce it, but
Okay.
between now and when we actually pass it, there may be some changes.
Gotcha.
We can request a red line copy from the municipal clerk. This is the version of the ordinance that Mr. Rushkey, when he was here talking about it, that he did the changes to in reference to not keeping it the state's ordinance. He changed it so that it was favorable for Hopatcong as opposed to adopting the state ordinance. And I believe it did also go through Mr. Urson's office. So
Sure, just so everybody understands, what Ryan said is correct. If we're changing a portion of an ordinance, I
No, yeah,
understand
I
if somebody
understand,
wants to
absolutely.
see,
Mhm.
you know, what words change or something. But in this case, you're getting rid of the entire
Yes.
ordinance in the ordinance book and you're replacing it with the model ordinance.
Mhm.
So there
So it's
wouldn't
not
be
a
any
red line.
compare and contrast, it's all new.
Understood.
but John tweaked it from the model ordinance.
Well, you,
Yes.
if you
You
wanted to
both tweaked
compare
it.
and contrast from the model ordinance to the one that John's recommending, that you could get, but that's primarily in the tree replacement section.
Right,
The tree replacement section in the model ordinance is very cumbersome. Or very demanding, let's say. And when he came before the council, you know, he was recommending more of a one-to-one replacement. And so that's what's in here, is what his recommendation was.
Right.
right, which I have a problem with, because if you're gonna tell everybody that takes a tree down in this town that they have to replace it with one, it's expensive enough to take trees down. We are not a wealthy town. When you get a price quote to take a tree down at $2,500, hell, that's more than my mortgage.
Mm.
For one damn tree, and then I gotta go out and buy a replacement tree. I'm pretty sure that most of our residents are gonna have a problem with that, and I do. I just think it's a little bit overreach to start requiring these things. I would like to discuss if maybe there's some other alternatives, maybe expanding the exemption section, because there should be exemptions. We got a lot of big trees that are way too close to houses.
Mm.
They're not in here. They're not exempt. I got two huge trees that are leaning over my daughter's bedroom right now that scare the hell out of me. And I know it's gonna cost me at least $5,000 to take them down. And I don't have $5,000. That's why they're still there. I really, really think we need to take a long, hard look at this before we start telling people that they have to replace trees and pay for things that they can't afford.
Since this ordinance comes from the DEP, correct?
Correct, as part of our stormwater permits, the DEP has required that you introduce a series of, I think it was 5 ordinances this year. I think you've already done 3 of them. Some of them were, you know,
The
sort of
salt.
nominal, the salt, the
The salt
private
one.
salt
Right.
shed and so
Mm.
forth. The tree ordinance, I think, is the second to last one, and you still have the stormwater one coming. But that's also made the rounds between the DEP and some, the county has had some input on that.
So if we were to make any potential changes, would we have to get approval from DEP before being able to pass that?
So that's not as clear. So when they send you the model ordinances, they essentially tell you that it is a recommendation. And that you're not required to adopt it word for word. But if essentially what's transmitted is that if the essence of the protections that they're seeking are not in the ordinance that you pass, it may impact your stormwater permits.
But is the tree one involved in that too?
Yes.
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 Okay.
The
So
tree
all
one
5
is
of those
technically
are-
supposed to be passed by May 1st, but because we were introducing it for now,
We
there
kind
was
of
no,
have to
there was
introduce it
no
now.
there was no conflict.
We have to
I-
introduce it, but
I
we still
haven't-
we still have an opportunity to change it between now and May 1st
Yeah.
before we approve it, yes?
You never have to approve something at second reading. If there's major changes, you have to reintroduce it, but that's.
With minor tweaks, if we were to agree as a board on May 1st, we could still pass this on time. If we introduce it tonight, make some minor changes before the 1st, and then
Yeah.
approve it on the 1st, we're good.
We can even approve it on the 15th.
Yeah.
It's just we're making the intent to introduce it at the right time.
Understood.
Yeah,
But-
my belief is that if it's in motion, I think, I don't think there's gonna be a consequence from DEP if the adoptions are in motion.
Understood. Thank you.
Would you like to have Mr. Reschke here when you're discussing the changes and whatnot in it? It doesn't have to be the meeting of the 1st, it could be the meeting of the 15th, but
I'd call him tomorrow morning and have a quick conversation. And say,
well, I
"Why
mean,
did
so
you do this?"
everybody can hear.
Yeah, well, then we can come back and he can come back and report on that, yes.
Okay, so is that comfortable? Everybody can communicate with Mr. Rushke until I'll ask him to come back on the 15th. He can compile all of the compilations of everybody's comments and questions, and then he can come forward. Is that okay?
Sounds reasonable. Yeah,
Mhm.
perfect.
And so that we're gonna push this out a month, so it won't be on the 1st, it'll be on the 15th.
We'll talk about it again on the 15th, but in between now and the 15th, you would talk with John Rushke about what your questions are, and we'll get a red line version from the clerk for everyone.
I don't need a red line version of the,
Yeah, if it's just
a
the
complete
red line going
replacement.
forward for like any ordinance changes, if they're not complete replacements, I think we had requested red lines so we could see going forward what changes were made in an effort to save everybody time and just make it easier for the council. But for
So-
this, if it's just a swap, we don't need the red
Yeah, I
line.
don't need a red
You don't
line.
want to know what's changing from the old one to the new one.
The whole thing is
The whole-
changing.
No, the state to the new one, the state one
Oh,
versus
the
what we're
state one,
doing.
sure, yes, that would be
Yes.
great.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yes,
We're
I'm sorry.
changing the state
They
resolution.
gave
Yes,
us a
we're
model
changing the
one and
state
we're
one.
editing it.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, the state one, yes.
Yes.
so if we can make sure that Val knows to change that. Okay, we have no final hearings. We have old business.
Wait, we have to do a, yeah, we have
I'm
to.
sorry, roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent, Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Moving on, there's no final hearings. We have old business. We have Mr. Simonelli here from the Savaccia, who's going to give us a little budget presentation.
Stand over here, that's okay, so I can see. For those who don't know me, I'm Ray Sarnelli with the audit firm Ms. Savaccia. Tonight is the public hearing and adoption of the 2024 municipal budget. So before that happens, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time going through the numbers a little bit as a refresher for all of you and hopefully informationally for the rest of you. So like any budget, there's two sides. There's a revenue side and appropriation side. So the revenue is the receipts you receive. The appropriation side is the budget for the things that you spend, and both sides have to balance. So this is an overview of the revenue side with a comparative to what the final budget was of last year. So we talked a lot about the fund balance. This year, we are using $2.5 million of fund balance, which is a little bit more than last year at 2.439. We've had the discussion that over the next several years, that number will most likely decrease over time, but at the current point in time is deemed adequate for the balancing of this budget. I know I got in a little bit of trouble last meeting when I called it a savings account, but just as a refresher, the fund balance is your own funds being drawn down in order to help balance the budget. It helps create a smoother process. You use too much, your fund balance goes down. You use too little, your fund balance goes up. Hopefully you're in the right amount depending on where you're at in your fund balance cycle. Next, we have our local revenues, which are down slightly, but that's a little bit misleading. The revenues were strong last year because of the strong economy. But because of the change with the municipal court now being a shared service, there's no longer that share of revenue coming in on the local side. It's down under shared services, which is under miscellaneous. That reduction of revenue is actually offset on the appropriation side. You're no longer having the expenses for the municipal court. So a reduction of 24,000 in the revenue side, which you'll see some pretty significant savings on the appropriation side. Next up is state aid and energy receipt tax. Actually, a pretty nice increase there of 61,000 up to 1,064,000. State aid had really remained unchanged since 2008 when it was reduced. So nice to see it coming back up a little bit. I think we're going to want to keep our eye on that. State aid has increased recently. I believe it's because of the amount of American Rescue Plan funding that the state received that they're kind of passing on to you. So will that additional $61,000 stay? Fingers crossed that it does. I don't know necessarily that that's going to be there forever. So we hope that it is. That's a nice little boost there, but we'll see how that is going forward. Grants are tax neutral. They're equal revenue and appropriation in the budget and actually can be added to during the year. So there is $508,000 of grants in this budget. There's an offsetting appropriation of $580,000 of grants on the appropriation side of the budget. Again, a little bit of an increase in the miscellaneous revenues. There was some good collections there because of a good economy and also some of that court revenue being transferred from a local revenue to a shared service revenue. And then last but not least is the biggest number, which is taxation. you'll see a slight decrease of $8,873 on the levy, which we're gonna get into some really fun, confusing stuff on how the levy translates into a tax rate and how the tax rate translates into what the actual tax a homeowner is paying. So we're gonna save that for a little bit later. But for right now, we can focus on the fact that the tax levy actually is having a decrease for this year. And just to give you an idea of the proportions of that, obviously taxation was the biggest number up there. And also fund balance is another big revenue source. So as that pie starts to shrink for fund balance, we'll have to look for some other revenues and see where we go from there in the future. But currently, that's the makeup of the budget, 71% taxation, 13% from fund balance, and then almost less than 5% on the various other revenue sources that we have. So really, this is the most important part of my job, is to make sure your budget is statutorily compliant. So there are two caps that go along with the budget that the state has mandated. This one is the tax levy cap. So there's numerous calculations that we have to do once the budget is put together to determine what's the maximum amount that you can raise taxation by. So that this year, that number would be $13,785, and taxation is $13,408,127. So you're $377,000 under what potentially you could raise taxation by. So I think that's a pretty good achievement in keeping taxes well below what you're statutorily allowed to do. So as I said before, you have to have a balanced budget. We took a look at the appropriation side, and now we're gonna look, or we took a look at the revenue side, now we're gonna look at the appropriation side, which is the spending side of the budget. You'll see, obviously, there's a few numbers that are increasing there: general government, insurances, and public works. You know, you are not immune to inflation, so as things, the cost of things increases, your budget appropriations need to increase with the demand of that expense. You know, the biggest decrease, or one of the biggest decreases we're seeing here, is on public safety. Again, that's the core. The actual, when people think public safety, they usually think of police. Those appropriations are increasing for police, but in this case, police, fire, and municipal court all go under the umbrella of public safety. And so with the court moving to a shared service, which is a little bit further down on here, you know, you're seeing savings in that public safety line item. Your solid waste expenses is a complete anomaly to me. Last year, the statewide average increase on solid waste contract was 76%. Your solid waste contract is essentially flat. It's down about $20,000. I don't know how that's possible, but I'm not going to argue with it. That's a very good thing. So, you know, your solid waste contract is flat year over year. Slight decrease in the health and recreation, utility statutory expenses, and shared services. So, you know, there's a little bit of an increase in the shared services because of the court, where when I reviewed the budget, where a lot of the savings is coming in is in utilities. And so what that's going to do is tighten down on the budget, right? So we're not budgeting as much, and hopefully there's not as much of an expense on utilities. So that's going to cause a little bit of tightening on the budget. And, you know, I think you've all heard me say this before. It's something we're really going to want to keep an eye on as we move through the year and then move into next year's budget. It's going to be tough to keep that appropriation under control as those types of expenses continue to rise. Your capital debt and grants. So the majority of that is your capital and debt service in those two numbers. And when I reviewed the budget, I would say that's about where your capital and debt planning is going to be for a while. So, you know, in order to stay in the debt plan cycle that you've been in, where you're not looking to get into a long-term debt instrument like a bond, where currently in bond anticipation notes, which are paid off over a 10-year period, and you're not into a structured amortization and into debt with the same institution over a long period of time, you're at 1 year renewable, what we call bands, bond anticipation notes. So in order to keep your capital program, robust and maintaining the needs, but also meet that debt service plan, you really can't go below the $1.4 million that's appropriated here. And, as we move through to future years, I would hope that we can look to increase that as rising costs happen. And then your reserve for uncollected taxes remains unchanged at $1.7 million. That's that funky appropriation because you're the collecting agent for the school and the county, but you don't always collect 100% of your tax. So you actually have to budget an appropriation to make sure you're able to meet the spending of those tax dollars to the school and to the county, even though you're not collecting 100% of that tax in the current year. So that's a fun little New Jersey thing that we have to include in the budget. So that's I'm gonna focus this on a little bit. Actually, I'll do the next slide very quickly and then we'll talk about questions. So a lot more spread out on the appropriation side, right? You're pretty finite in what revenues you can bring into the town. But as far as what you're spending on, there's a lot of different areas. Public safety is a big one. Public works obviously is another big one. Something that a lot of people don't see is the insurances that you have to pay for your employees is another big expense. And that's, not a Hopakon specific thing. I think everybody knows the state health benefit plan had a 23% increase a year or so ago. So insurance is expensive. You need to make sure your employees are insured and doing what they need to do. So that's another big part of the expense in your budget. And then you have your various other areas of the appropriation side of the budget. So that's your general operating budget. Is there any questions on the revenues or appropriations that I went through so far? I mean, I still have a little bit left in the presentation, but I just paused real quick. So again, another very important part of my job is to make sure you're statutorily compliant. So in this case, this is the appropriation cap. Your total, what's interesting about the appropriation side of the budget is there are things that are inside cap and then there are things that are outside cap. So your total budget is $19,066,977. Things that are outside cap are capital and debt service. Debt institutions wouldn't look too fondly on the fact that your debt service payments would be inside cap because then you wouldn't be able to pay them at some point. So those types of things are outside the cap. Your general operating expenditures are inside the cap. And so that cap this year is $15,451,377. Your total appropriations that are inside cap are $15,092,745. Again, about $350,000 underneath that cap. So statutorily compliant on that area. So this is the slide that's going to be a little bit fun for me, confusing for pretty much everybody else. The way a tax rate is struck on a tax levy is already incredibly complicated and confusing. Adding a reassessment into that equation makes things even more confusing. So we talked about that your tax levy is flat year over year. However, if you look at this slide, your tax rate, and I'll just focus on the municipal to make it a little bit less confusing. Your tax rate is going from 94 cents essentially down to 53 cents. And now that's essentially happening because the piece of the pie got bigger. So what happens in a reassessment or a revaluation is, and again, this is not something that the council wishes to endeavor on. This is statutorily required that every 10 to 20 years, there's a reassessment of the town. Basically, essentially, how much is it to every single parcel that is taxable in the town? How much is it worth? So you hire a company to come out and do that. So If Elon Musk was to come and say buy Hopatcon Borough, he would be paying $2,498,489,900. That's what the entirety of your town is worth,
That's the starting bid.
starting bid.
Yeah.
So that is apportioned out to every parcel based on the rate. So your rate, your value last year was 1.4 million, which again was struck somewhere 10 to 20 years ago. And as long as nothing really changes, the rate stays the same, but you're required to have a revaluation done. And that was done, so obviously values are going to increase. And so what happens is the average assessed home went from $216,000 to $381,000. So more likely, so basically what that is updating everybody's values to most likely what they could sell their home for in the current market. That does not mean that you are going to pay more taxes. It just means that the value of your home is worth more. In this circumstance, because you kept the levy low, or the levy flat essentially, the value of the average assessed home and the tax they will pay essentially stayed the same. So there will be a $7 increase to the average assessed home. The problem is that everybody's home value changed. I would guess that somewhere between 75 and 90% of all home values stayed relatively the same in their structure of what they're worth compared to all the other homes. So if your assessed value was $216,000 last year, it is more than likely $381,000 this year. The only people that will fluctuate are the people that were overvalued in the last valuation or undervalued in the last valuation. Their taxes will see change. Some will go down, some will go up. But for a majority of the portion of the town, their taxes, and I'll say municipal taxes, will not change, because even though their value is changing, it's changing proportionately with everybody else's value. So if somebody was say $500,000 last year, or roughly double what they were last year, they'll be closer to $700,000 this year, which is roughly double what the assessed value is this year. So that structure will all stay the same. There will be certain people who will pay much more than $7 in municipal taxes, but more than likely that's because their house was undervalued during the last year. And there will be some people that will pay less because their house was overvalued in the last reassessment. So a very complicated wrinkle, but for the most part, if you're the average assessed value last year and the average assessed value this year, you will see virtually no change in what municipal tax you are paying this year. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No, I think you explained that. That makes sense.
That was very,
Okay.
Total
very
sense.
well done.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
That was
sounds
very
good.
well done.
So that's the general operating budget. What's also included in your budget is your water utility budget and your sewer utility budget. Again, you have revenues and you have appropriations, and they both need to balance. So in this case, we're using a lot less fund balance to balance the budget. Slightly more on the rent side of things, and we're coming to a little bit less on the revenue side. The reason being for that is we did have some debt forgiveness on some of our outstanding iBank loans, and some debt falling off and some debt that was paid off. So as that debt structure was reduced, we can rely less on the fund balance, which is a good thing. When I started here, 2021 was, I think, the first budget I did with all of you. The water utility and the sewer utility fund balance were in a steep decline. And I think we knew we were going to get to a place where some of the debt was going to fall off. And so that's kind of where we are. We're a little bit stabilized on the fund balance after some pretty serious reductions. I say this every year when I talk about the water and sewer utility budget. We're going to need to keep a close eye on them. We don't want to see their fund balances continue to drop. To me, the vision is pretty stable there, but water and sewer utilities can be very weather dependent. You get a lot of rain, people use less water. You get a lot less rain, people use more water. So we're gonna want to keep an eye on that as we proceed through the next several budgets. But hopefully things are stabilizing here as some of this debt is falling off. Questions on water utility budget? Sewer utility budget is in a very similar place to the water utility budget. We're using slightly less fund balance, increase on the rents, which there was a rent reduction last year at the end of the year. So again, something that is understandable, but we'll need to keep an eye on as we move through. There has been some drastic decline in the fund balance, which is now stabilized because of the reduction in some pretty big debt payments that were that came off. So things appear to be stable, but again, something we're going to want to keep a close eye on as we move through into future years' budgets. But overall, very stable budget for this year. Slight increase in the rents. That doesn't mean there's an increase in what you're being billed. It just means that there was good collections last year. We can increase what we're budgeting a little bit. So again, we'll have to keep an eye on that. So that is the entirety of your budget. Unless there's any questions from the rest of you, the process would be to open the hearing to the public, have the hearing, and then move forward, close the hearing to the public and move forward with a vote on the adoption of the budget. Obviously, if you have any questions or the public has any questions, both Lily and I are here for any of that.
Can I ask you my standard question I ask every year?
Oh boy. Go ahead.
How long can we stay at zero?
It's going to be increasingly difficult to do that. We had the conversation the last time I was here that, and I reiterated it here today. We're going to have to reduce the use of fund balance over the next several years, which will put pressure on the tax rate. I would anticipate a tax rate increase next year. If I had a crystal ball, I'd love to give you a percentage off the top of my head. But I would, in my mind, see a tax increase next year. But again, if there's new sources of revenues that we can find or continue to find some type of appropriation reduction, but there's going to be more pressure on taxes next year for sure.
Unless we find a new stream of revenue.
New stream of revenue or reduction of appropriations.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions? Can I have a motion to open it to the public?
So made.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp?
No, we're just opening to the public. Oh, we
One
we
second.
have to,
Oh,
hold on.
Mr. Hoppercamp?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts is absent. Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, now it's open to the public.
Question is with the reevaluation, now the county and the school district, they can raise the amount that we'll be paying, so we may not stay at a level amount.
So this governing body only votes on the municipal portion.
Right.
And what they can control. So as I tried to reiterate, the municipal portion will only be increasing $7.95.
Right,
But that's what this board can control. We cannot control what the school board does and what the county commissioners do.
right, so we don't know what's gonna happen to.
Also, we do know that the county commissioners increased their budget, I believe it was 0.89%, but that's based on an equalized value. So you won't know what that amount is until that equalization ratio is struck. Essentially, what the way the county tax rate is struck is each town in the county is compared to one another in how their values fluctuated. So even though your value did obviously go up from 1.7 million to over 2 billion, if let's say Sparta's value went up more than that, you'll actually see a reduction because comparatively you didn't go up as much as they did. So it's all comparative. So even though their rate is only going up 0.89%, which is pretty light to the average taxpayer, it's hard to say what that will be.
Okay, thank you.
There were 4 towns that had revals in Sussex
Yeah,
County too.
yeah.
So we do have kind of good odds because there are 4 towns that had revaluations that are hitting the books. So it's not just our portion of the pie getting larger. There's 3 other towns in the muck with us. So
What were the 3 other towns, Lori?
I do not know.
I know Franklin Borough Franklin Borough is on a rolling reassessment where they're reassessed every year.
Ooh,
Byron went. Rebound.
Byron too.
Anyone else from the public? Not seeing any motion bring it back.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have the adoption of the 2024 municipal budget. Can I have a motion
So made.
Second,
and a roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Roberts is absent. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
yes.
New business. This is a discussion regarding municipal tax lien assignments.
It looks like the tax collector is posing a question to you about whether or not you want to consider the 2 different methods of transferring tax sale certificates. Hopatcong, in my memory of 14, 15 years, we've always done private liens sales. So that if somebody comes in and says, I want to get an interest in a certain property where there's an outstanding tax lien, they can pay the amount that's due, so Hopatcong is made whole, and it's transferred to them in a pretty quick process. The council approves the assignment of the tax sale lien and it's done. Under the statute, you can do public auctions of the tax sale lien certificate. But unless you have a very robust auction process, you can end up with bids less than the face value or less than the balance due, I should say, on the tax sale certificate. And so as the council has all experienced firsthand, even our auctions, we tend to have 1 bidder, sometimes 2, but that's even rare. And so we've always done the private tax sale certificates to make sure that the borough gets reimbursed the full dollar amount. So I think that's what the tax collector's memo to you is questioned, is to whether or not you want to consider following the private tax sales assignment process that you've always done, or consider whether or not you want to auction them at some point.
And if I could add something here, this is in response to a specific inquiry on, I believe, 3 liens where someone is requesting to purchase them. It's a discretionary act. I will caution that normally, and I have no idea what this individual's intentions are, but oftentimes these purchases are not made out of goodwill. You know, there's an intent behind there. And, you know, the argument could be, well, the best thing to do for the public is to go ahead and sell this and get face value for the lien. But there could be some real consequences over a period of time when a foreclosure may occur. Just something to keep in mind.
A foreclosure on whom?
So with all tax sale certificates, whether they're, when taxes are aged to a certain extent, we go out to auction for tax sale certificates. Most of them are purchased by the public at certain interest rates in a declining kind of bid kind of way. So once they've been held long enough by the private person, that person can begin a tax sale certificate foreclosure. And the borough can as well. The rules are a little bit different for the borough. If nobody bids on the tax sale certificate, the borough holds the tax sale certificate, and eventually we foreclose on the property with the mechanism that we try and sell the property someday or put it to municipal use to try and recoup the lost taxes. the tax sale certificate process works because most of our tax sale arrears are purchased by people in the public through the tax sale certificate process, and the borough essentially gets reimbursed of those missing taxes at the time of the tax sale. But either way, whether the borough holds it or whether someone from the public holds it, eventually, probably most of them end up in a tax sale foreclosure process as the rules allow. The municipality can do it quicker than private people can.
Can you flip back and forth between private and public?
You can, if there was a reason.
Yeah.
And again, this is just for discussion, not necessarily.
So as we stand right now, and the mayor's right, it's just for discussion. So the tax collector is authorized to propose assignments to you anytime. If there's something that can be sold on par for the balance due, the paperwork's pretty simple. It gets presented to you. It's on an agenda. It's a quick agenda item because if you're getting all your taxes back, presumably, you wouldn't have an objection. And, when they appear on agendas, I never remember them even really being discussed. But I guess the only action item would be is if you wanted to give feedback to the tax collector, either tonight or another time, that you were interested in exploring the auction process.
We don't know if these are buildable lots, right?
Well, two of them, it says two of them have docks.
But yeah,
And one of them is just a vacant piece of property.
The
I looked
address
at
is
the
on-
dimensions and they're very small.
They're very small.
The addresses on his letter are wrong.
Oh, they are?
It's 1, right? 100
What is it?
on his letter. It's incorrect.
We don't necessarily advertise per se, like if we were to hold a public auction, all the land that I've seen anyway in the last couple of years, you wouldn't know if there's anything for sale unless you checked the agenda or you lived
Next. to it.
adjacent to the property. So people really don't know what's available. So can we do anything better to advertise? Hey, buy this.
For tax liens, we have to advertise the tax liens.
So the tax sales, certificate sales, they're pretty well attended and the bidding is pretty robust on them. They don't happen at council meetings. The sale of property, I completely agree with you. Hopakong accumulated over the years a large number of municipally owned properties. Certainly more than you need and certainly probably larger than average. And to create a process where you created more visibility that certain properties were potentially available for purchase, that serves the municipality really well because in a year, if you can sell a number of properties, as Mr. Serenelli said, it's an income stream that is not otherwise anticipated in the budget.
Could we as a town, like say monthly or even quarterly, but I'd say monthly, take a section of town, the tax map and highlight the ones that are available and put them in the newsletter every month, each month being a different section of town.
So you could, but, and I'm at the risk of stealing the mayor's thunder, because I think she already has a plan on this. If just highlighting that properties are available is only really part of it, you have to get some interest from somebody, otherwise there's no point in auctioning them.
But if to Rachel's point, if people aren't aware, like, down the street from them, or across the street or something, they're not aware. I mean, it's just a possibility. It might open somebody's eyes to, hey, wait a minute, let me think about it.
So for the liens and the property that's for sale are two different things because these are property that taxes haven't been paid on. But as for real estate that the borough has, we've been spending the last 3 weeks having the department heads go through municipally owned property that we need for drainage, property that the municipal building sits on, things like that, because all of our municipal property we're actually going to put online. And we're going to have all of the municipal property available for the public to see, for them to bid on and express interest and whatnot. So that instead of having it go through individual, like with the real estate committee, instead of it going through all of the real estate committee, they'll be able to go online, see property by their home. They'll be able to fill out the form, give the $100 deposit, and the process starts. And it starts internally instead of it kind of, I don't want to say being delayed, because Bradley did a great job with real estate, but this is a way to get it all out there so people can see it. And like you said, they can see, oh, down next, down here, next to me, behind me. And there'll be obviously formulas and things that the property becomes available with, and there are properties that are only available to contiguous property owners also. But that is one of the things that we are doing with a revenue stream for the municipal property, and making sure that we can, we're not in the real estate business. If you go to other municipalities and speak to them, they don't really have a lot of municipal property for sale, because it's just, you don't keep it on the tax roll. Because every piece of municipal property that we physically own, we have to pay school tax and county tax on it. We don't have to pay municipal tax, but we're holding all of this real estate that we're paying all of this other tax on. So the idea is to get rid of as much as we possibly can. So that is in the process. If that answers it, sorry.
No.
So this is, again, this was just for discussion, to see where the council felt. I believe there was an interest, to which you have the letter in front of you, where the resident was looking to get these 3 specific tax liens individually, instead of waiting for things to go to the tax sale that the municipality does as a tax.
Right, but if you take no action tonight, the tax collector can certainly work on the private lien assignment to anybody who requests it, and the town can, get reimbursed its money, and somebody can get the tax liens from there. In fact, if that's likely, if the interest continues, that's likely what would happen if the council takes no action or has no input or no direction.
I would be good with just keeping it as a private tax lien. It's been working for all this time, and the auction thing does have its pitfalls when it comes to the actual value, what might get out of it. So it's been working fairly well. And also, as the mayor mentioned about the real estate, bear in mind, we probably, last time I checked, we have over 700 pieces of property. So not all, a portion, but not a lot is owned and is used by the town.
Yeah, they were
But
at
the rest of it- but it's-
685,
What's that?
685 properties.
So with that, however, just for, I wanted to make people aware that there are restrictions to that. If there's a piece of property between your lot and your neighbor's lot, that has to be figured out to go between either both or one, depending on how it goes forward. And so you just can't sell that initially to a public entity. So, or private, somebody wanting to buy that. And there's other restrictions of 4 lots or 3 lots neighbor up to the lot line. So it's a little more complicated than just move them out. That's all.
So what is the council's pleasure? Just, we're done with discussion for this?
I don't wanna lose money on these things. I kinda like it the way it is, where we don't lose money. If you send it up for auction and we lose money on it, I don't know if I like that idea. I like keeping it the way it is.
That's the consensus I'll pass along to the tax collector to continue looking into the private sale options.
Fine with me.
Yeah, I think it's something we should track more closely so we can really see how can we better the process going forward. So it's fine, keep it as is.
Okay.
Can I just bring up something just in new business? I know I had spoken to you about it a couple of weeks ago, but after the letter from the county clerk last week, I think more discussion needs to be made about the vacant home ordinance. With the squatters and that piece. Is that something that we could do? Mayor?
Yes, that is something that we can do. We actually have a department head meeting that's coming up where we're going to talk about the squatters and electricity and some other things in referencing to vacant homes, in a way to be able to monitor what's happening with these vacant homes. And at the senior meeting, I had actually asked they have a lot of different areas that they live in. There's a lot of homes that they know are vacant. If they see lights on in them, we're asking them to reach out. We're asking the residents in general, if they see lights on in something that they know is vacant, to reach out to us. But once we have the discussion with the department heads, everybody who does go out, whether it be the police, the fire marshal, zoning, construction, tax assessing, they'll be aware. We're gonna try to come up with some kind of a list that we can disseminate between everybody so that they're aware of what it is. And it wouldn't hurt to look at what the ordinance is for that, though, to see if there's any other meat that we can have with that. And again, see what other municipalities are doing around us and how they're dealing with it. It is a very prevalent problem, and to know that it's happening in Sussex County on a weekly basis is not really endearing. So I think it's a great idea. I do have one other thing under new business. At the land use meeting the other night, there was a discussion about docks. And the state has allowed it to where you don't need a permit to do these things. But we still want to maintain the safety of anybody who's doing this. So there are ordinances that have been passed in other municipalities around the lake. And obviously it's only for towns that surround Lake Hopatcong that's pertaining to these. But Mount Arlington and Jefferson have their versions of the ordinance. And I think it's imperative that we give Mr. Urson some direction to be able to set something up for us to have on our books. Because again, the safety of the public is the utmost importance, and not being able to inspect new docks, as we heard, a lot of the repairs and things are one thing, but when you have people replacing pylons and things like that. So I'm going to make copies of these ordinances to give to you so that you can look at the other two. And in the meantime, I'll give them to Mr. Urson so he's aware of where we should be going. But I think that it's in the best interest of Hopatcong, and it would be something that would go through construction anyway. So I'll make those for everybody so that they have them.
Did Bill O'Connell have any kind of preference to any one of those?
They're pretty similar. They're just a little different verbiage. They're placed a little differently in their ordinance books. So he just said, you know, whatever we could do to make sure that we were making sure that they were inspected is where he's going. But you'll see when you get them, they're not that much different.
I just want to make sure that the person that's actually inspecting them approves of the method.
Absolutely. I actually got them from his office.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got them
perfect.
from his office, because he did have a model one at one point. He couldn't locate that. So we went with, he gave me these two to just use for this evening.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is everybody okay with it?
Mhm.
Okay. So that was all I had for new business. So we're at second public comment, motion to open to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so meeting is open to the public.
Hi, my name is Lynn Owens. I'm at 14 Papoose Trail. I don't know if it's just me because I'm older, but can you all hear everything that goes on in the meeting? You can, so maybe it's me. I feel like we missed some things. I love the way you run the meeting, that's fine, but I feel like we're missing some things when you're talking among yourself. That's not why I'm here tonight to talk to you, though. Is there one of you on the council that has some ability to talk to neighbors that don't keep their homes up properly? My next door neighbor is the town property, but the house next to that is owned by a gentleman who's been working on it for 10 years or more, maybe. Scaffolding is up and all the building supplies are there. And myself and my husband and all our neighbors are tired of looking at it. And I've talked multiple times to Mr. Donegan. He's very ready to help, but he feels like there's nothing more he can do. And I think it's a detriment to our little neighborhood where we are off Papoose Trail. And I don't know, is there an ordinance that
We do
can-
have ordinances on property maintenance. If you don't mind, at the end, you'll give me the address.
Sure, sure. If, it's just that it's been going on for years and we're just sick and tired of it.
I understand.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Mayor, I believe this gentleman wants a photo with you. That's what he's waiting for, and his ride is here and he needs to go. Yeah, great. Yep. Do you want me to take the picture for you? Here, give me your phone. I'll come down.
Oh, thank you
Of course.
I need my mail.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking your time to.
Thank you. That's okay. That's okay.
All right, ready? Look at me. 1, 2, 3. All right, I took a couple for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
I thank you for your service in the town.
Thank you.
I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll
Have
see
a
you
good
next
night.
meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
And Mayor, Lynn, just, so you know, we are working, it's a slow process, but these microphones do connect to the speakers that are in the ceiling. We're working slowly to get the technology upgraded, so hopefully in time, if we speak into these, you guys will actually be able to hear us across the room.
Rachel's on it.
As far as like advertising, I think if you give more than the block and lot number a lot of times for the properties, so people know the addresses, because sometimes the addresses aren't on there. And a lot of people, unless they know their block and lot number, which most of us don't, even though we've seen it on our, our bills. Can we add a minimum bid when you put it out for auction, if you go the auction route?
They always have a minimum bid.
Well, then how would we be losing money?
You're talking about two different things. We're talking about tax sale certificates versus auctioning off property.
No, I know we do a minimum bid on auctioning of property. I'm talking about the tax lien certificates. Can we put a minimum bid if we put them out for?
You could, but if you made the minimum bid, the amount that is owed, there would be no point to auctioning it off. You'd be better off just privately selling it for the face value.
No, because if I wanted it and you wanted it, I bid more money than you did.
No, that's not the way tax sale certificates work.
Well, then we didn't understand. Well, I didn't understand what you were.
Nobody's gonna pay more for it than what they can get for it.
It's never, I wouldn't say never, because there are times where tax sale certificates get a premium added, but it's rare.
What I don't understand, if it's out for auction and I want it and somebody else wants it and I'm willing to bid more money for it, why are we losing?
We're not losing, it's just that it's very rare that someone pays a premium more than they can get back.
Okay,
Mayor, can I sell you $1 for $1.10?
no, but if two big people were gonna sit here and bid on it anyway,
Nobody's gonna bid more than what it's worth, because they're not gonna get more than what it's worth out of it. Do you understand? I mean,
No,
very
because-
rarely.
well, I'm missing something, and that's what I'm trying to
Well, that's
understand.
what I'm trying to
So
explain to
the
you.
tax lien is only for the money that they owe, right, for the taxes?
Yes,
It's the money plus an interest rate.
Right, the money plus an interest rate. So if I'm willing to pay the money off and the interest rate, and he's willing to give you more than that because he wants the property more than that, that's what I'm
they're not
missing.
getting the
Why-
property, they're getting the tax lien.
Well, the tax lien, if he's willing to bid more for the tax lien, then,
But it has no bearing on the ownership of the property, so if the
no,
property.
it's for the
gets sold-
lien. But if
It's
he's willing to
just the
pay more
lien.
for the lien,
Right. That's it, just the lien. It's
Right.
not, then they sell the property, that he's gonna get the money back on.
right,
Right, so
Right.
it has no bearing, he's never gonna get more money than the taxes due.
you're missing what I'm asking, but that's
You're just
okay.
buying taxes due. So if the person owes $10,000 and you buy it for $10,000, when they pay it off, they pay you $10,000.
Plus
If you paid
interest.
$15,000 for it, they still only owe you $10,000. So the person who bought it would be losing
Yeah,
$5,000.
but if it goes into foreclosure,
Right, but the problem is that
The
the
premium
the
would be a little bit
foreclosures,
That's right.
successful tax foreclosures are actually fairly rare. People usually, if you owe $10,000 in taxes on your $300,000 house, usually you figure out a way to pay it off. So in private tax sale certificates, it's rare to get to the foreclosure, which is why it's rare for somebody to pay premiums just to get the opportunity for foreclosure.
okay. That was better explanation, thank you. Why weren't the police resolutions done in time? Did we not know we were hiring the police? Or did they just not get on the agenda?
I think it was just an oversight that they did not make it on the agenda, and the unfortunate thing is our clerk's been out sick this week.
Okay, and we mentioned at a different meeting that we hadn't collected the monies from the solar panel people
No,
yet?
no, we
And
have
are we
not.
charging interest on that?
We're actually looking into that right now,
Because they still owe from like last
because they
year, right?
still owe from 2023.
Okay, I'd like to thank Mr. Schuster for including the bids in the agenda this time, so I don't have to over all of that. And there's a question from a few years ago that I was wondering, what happened to the property we sold to PSE&G that wasn't in the back, huh? Did we give it back to whatever town it was in?
Don't know that
Yes, you did. We sold them two pieces of property and we had to give them their money back. And I asked you if you were gonna give it back to the guy that you foreclosed on, and you said no.
you're testing my memory. I don't remember.
Well, when something like that happens and you sell property to a major utility and you don't remember it, I have a problem with that.
Anyone else?
Oh, yeah.
Dave.
I was just wondering, where's the clerk? In other words,
She's not well. She's
okay,
she's
I
sick.
thought, okay, I thought we hired or we appointed a substitute clerk when Valerie couldn't. function.
There is a deputy clerk, but the unfortunate thing is that the deputy clerk was not available to be able to come to the meeting this evening either.
I see. Is someone taking the notes or what?
We have Mr. Schuster taking our notes.
I'm doing a
Okay.
fairly adequate job this evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Stick with administration.
I'm just kidding.
That's why he's only an interim. Just kidding, right?
Hi, Mayor. Frank Perugia, 69 Elbow Avenue. Ray, really good job, your presentation of the budget. And the question I had is, with regard to the letter that we got about the reassessment of our property,
Mhm.
is there gonna be a new municipal tax rate struck? Or can we go by what was in that letter for our taxes?
We've been
What?
giving everybody the basic, the 1.987 as the tax rate instead of the 3.499, which was last year's.
Okay, so it's
So-
one,
1.987 times the assessment that you have. And then unfortunately, without having the county rate or the school rate, we don't know what that number is.
Right.
That was juggling that in there.
right, so we won't have the final rate until, I think it would be like June or July.
Yes, because we're not on the same calendar.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to bring up too, with regard to people keeping up with their properties, I guess there's a lot of properties in a pack on that people, have neglected. And, we need to take more pride in our town and, keep, keep after those people that, are, not taking care of their property, over the years and stuff. And I would like to see some sort of mechanism where there's a process that, you could remain anonymous and, you could say that maybe, the zoning board or somebody go out and look at these properties and then they can make the assessment too, and, if they're in violation of one of the ordinances, just get, a notice or a warning.
Mhm.
And then if they don't, change, then, I guess there's a fine structure that they'll get fined, but I think that's the only way. Unfortunately, we're gonna change, some of the people, in the town to maintain our properties, so.
No, I appreciate that. We do have a property maintenance ordinance. Since this meeting, I will confer with Mr. Schuster and we'll, obviously speak with zoning and see where we can go from there. as to
Okay,
what's
because that's
happening.
real important.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Speaking of property maintenance. There's a wooded lot next to my property. I'm on the corner of Northwestern Way and DuPont. It's a wooden lot, belongs to the town. There are a bunch of dead trees on it. Two of them have taken out sections of my fence.
Mhm.
I was wondering if the town can come in and clean that lot and get rid of the dead trees. It also looks hideous when you're driving up DuPont and you just see this big giant dead tree hanging over
I'm surprised the people on the other side of me haven't said anything.
You're saying it's the corner of Northwestern and DuPont?
Yeah, it's the lot between my house and the people further down on DuPont.
Okay,
So I'm the corner property.
okay. I will forward this to Pat Mason, see if he can do a drive-by and let me know.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not in the tree business because we don't have a tree budget. But again, if it's a dangerous situation, they will more than likely take care of the situation.
Okay, great. Also, I just want to follow up on a conversation that you and I had privately last month about dead deer.
Yes,
And you were going to look into the county about having the police being
yes.
able to come on the property.
Yes.
Remove. Have you heard?
I don't have anything. I only just mentioned it at a meeting that I was at last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
To the county,
Okay.
to two of the people that were there. So I don't have anything back from them yet.
Okay. That's it.
No, that's okay. Anyone else? Not seeing any motion to bring it back.
Motion.
Second.
Can I make a suggestion just before you make your comments about all the property maintenance stuff? Have we considered or given any thought to adopting the IPMC? Why are
I
you
don't think
smiling?
so.
Is somebody gonna murder me in my sleep?
It's just it's a big expensive process, that's all.
It's a big, expensive process.
Yes.
How so?
So you buy a subscription and then typically you make your zoning linked to the code because the code is very thick.
Yes, like 600
Right.
pages, yeah.
Correct. And so then your zoning people can then access the code and write warnings and summonses through the software that accesses the code. And so I have, I have experience in places that have considered
Mhm.
adopting it. And the debate is always whether or not it's helpful or overkill. I can tell you that if you adopted it, 80% of the lots in Hopatcong would not
I would
be in
prob-
compliance.
I would probably fail my garbage pile next to my garbage. removal
So,
construction.
so what always happens after consideration of that and giving it a fair amount of debate, what I always encourage is if the zoning officer feels like he doesn't have sufficient tools on the property maintenance side, let's identify exactly what problems he's seeing that he feels like he doesn't have the tools for, that there's not a code section or a violation section. Let's work on adding that sort of piece by piece rather than, a 300, 400, 500 page zoning code.
But it's like soup to nuts, IPMC.
Oh,
It's like. it
But Jen,
covers
right now, so
everything.
I would probably wait on that right now because our zoning construction department is looking at softwares right now that they're probably gonna be moving forward with in the near future. And the capabilities of those softwares could go from every department just to one department. So I would probably wait and see what they shake out with in terms of what they need moving forward before we throw anything else into the mix.
Well, what John is saying is that IPMC is the software.
There's multiple softwares though that they're looking into right now. So they're like, it's in process. They're testing out different things right now internally that we don't really know the details of.
Typically, when we get involved in these debates, your property maintenance code, I don't remember how old it is, but I don't think it's very outdated. Perhaps it could use some updating or some additional provisions to address problems that they're having. But typically, I hear from the zoning officers that the basic things are in there. And it's more a matter of getting compliance than necessarily, the zoning officer is always trying to find the balance between writing 100 summonses and trying to, get 60, 70, 80 households into compliance, and that's the balance. And so that's for the council and the administration to supervise, but that's always the balance. But if there's a review in the works, that's fine. If you want to meet with the zoning officer and talk about your property maintenance code and see what can be upgraded to give him better tools for the problems that he currently sees, that's fine too.
Thanks.
And just to sidebar on that, that's exactly what I was gonna have a conversation with Mr. Schuster about and Mr. Donegan.
IPMC.
know whether or not we actually have the tools that he needs, whether the ordinance is where it should be. We have to, I think, start at the basics and then work our way forward.
We had a motion and a second to close public comments. That's what.
Okay, so mayor's comment. So,
We need to vote on it.
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
I always forget the all in favors. Okay, so mayor's comments. I'd like to thank Ray Sarinelli for being here this evening and our CFO Lorraine England. The presentation was a lot better than I anticipated. It was very informative and I'm glad that you were there to do it. I do want to say that today I did just get notification from Community Corner that Hopatcon is ranked the 12th safest city in the state of New Jersey.
Great.
So that is actually very exciting for us. I did have a JCP&L meeting today in reference to the storm that we had with all the power outages. We had some issues with communication and all of that will be taken care of. The interesting thing that came out of the meeting was JCP&L had told me that they are going to meter readers that are smart readers, so that they will no longer be able to have to walk on your properties and things like that. They'll be able to just read it without doing that, which I thought was really interesting. And he said that they're not online yet. They won't be online for several years, but as they go out and they do things with the meters, they upgrade to these smart readers. And as they have the capability in an area, they do upgrade to smart readers. I just thought it was interesting because we never really see new things coming from JCP&L. So it's nice to know that all of the money that we do pay them is actually doing something for us. I also met with our superintendent, Jeff Hallenbeck, and we had a very productive meeting for probably a good hour and a half. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about, what they need at the school, what we need here at the town. And the one thing that we did come to the conclusion of is that we really do want to work together. We do realize that they're two separate budgets, but no matter how you look at it, it's still the same checkbook that you're writing the check out for, whether it's for the school or the town, it's still the same money for the same people. And one of the things that we also agreed to is we want to take the time to invest in Hopatcon's future. And you're going to start to hear that a lot from the two entities between the municipality and the schools. Because whether we're investing in the school buildings, the roads, the sidewalks of the town, the room here, we're investing in Hopatcon's future. And we need to remind people how great things are here. We need to remind people how we love living here. There's a lot of us that have lived here for a very, very long time. And even though things have been a little, I'll say dusty and disheveled for a little while, it's time to pick ourselves back up and go back out there and let people know that we're ready to invest in Hopatcon again. Whether it's through Wendy from Recreation, whether it's through our fire, whether it's through our police hires. There's nothing in Hopatcon that anybody can't be proud of. We have a lot here. We have to remember that. So I think with this new initiative that we both have, of investing in Hopatcon, I think we'll see a really big difference in a very quick turnaround time. As for the senior advisory, we met today and they did pick the seniors of the year, which I cannot tell you because it's a secret. Right, Fred? They will unveil it at the senior picnic, which is June 22nd, which is a Saturday, and all of council is invited. That's one of the two things that the town always did for seniors. They would do the senior picnic and they would do the senior spaghetti luncheon at St. Jude's in October. So that is something that we're going to get back into the habit of doing. So not only do I invite you to come to the senior picnic on the 22nd, but I invite you to come and help me at the senior picnic also. So hopefully that will work for everybody's schedule. The bocce ball courts are finished. For those of you that are asking, I know the rumors out there that something else is going to happen to them. It's not. They are up, they're running, they're very good. And we also spoke today about the Flag Day Parade with the senior advisory group. And I was really excited because one of them spoke about the seniors doing a float for the Flag Day Parade with all of the other floats that are coming. So I was very excited that this is my first float that's not from out of town. So I was very excited about that. We had our solar eclipse. We had our solar eclipse watch party. That was at the observatory. There was between, I would say, like 350 and 400 people that were there. And for those of you that are eclipse buffs, this is the last contiguous, in the contiguous US, this is the last eclipse until 2044. But it's the last eclipse that New York and New Jersey will see until 2079. We will not be here. The meeting that I was talking about with Cordy in reference to the 24th legislature. You think you're gonna be here?
Oh, I really hope I'm not.
The 24th legislative district meeting that I had was with Senator Parker Space and Assembly Mike and Ganamore and John Fantasia and several other mayors within that district. We spoke about a lot of different things, and there were quite a few things moving forward. One of them being JCP&L was one of them, communication between those officials, the county, and then coming back down to the mayor and councils. They were also looking for some suggestions and things that if there was something that was happening within the town. So I'm tasking people with homework this week. So if there is anything that's happening that you're aware of, that you think that we might be able to utilize help from the county, they are offering themselves pretty much just with anything with their professionals and services. So if there's anything that you can think of, please don't hesitate to ask me or to ask them moving forward. Reevaluation, we attended a reevaluation, reassessment, annual reassessment equalization class. Myself and Rachel and the tax assessor had attended this, and it's from the Sussex County Tax Board puts it on. It was actually really informative, and I just asked them to make copies actually of what they gave out. I wish we would have had this before the reval because we really would have been really educated with the public, but I do have a copy for everybody so everybody can see that. And it was something that you were able to ask a lot of questions. There were CFOs there, there were tax assessors, and then of course the county tax board was there. So there was a lot of information in reference to a lot of things with the county rate and things, which we did not get any answers, even though we tried to. I do want to remind everybody that the next meeting is at the firehouse and is not here. We are swearing in the new police officers, so I really would hope if everybody came out for that. It's nice to show our support for the police department. As Councilwoman Rodriguez mentioned earlier, they have their accreditation now, so that will be being awarded to them also. And they do have their individual awards that night. So we really do want to make sure that everybody makes it out for that. And that was all I had. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Nope,
Oh, we
Just
have,
kidding.
sorry, we have to go into executive session
nope.
for,
To discuss
we have to go
administrative
into executive session to discuss administrative
candidates
candidates
and white collar unions.
and white collar union salary
Adjustments.
adjustments.
No action will be taken.
No action will be taken. So our meeting will end and we will go into executive session. And then when we come out, there'll be no action taken, so you don't have to linger behind. and
Can we
wait for it.
recess really quick? So
Yeah, so we can pay.
Motion to adjourn and do executive.
Yeah, so you can go 5 minutes.
Second.
Well, I can't make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion to adjourn so we can go to executive.
Second.
Senior second.
Brett.
What are the all in favor?
12 to 3.
Aye.
Yes. He was clearly.
She forgot.